Alright, so we'll start this video with something a little different. You may see my Hardcore Iron Man, and you may be wondering, you have a Hardcore Iron Man? Yes, I do. I haven't played it in 7 months. Those of you that remember, I used to make progress videos on it. Now that school's winding down, I'm definitely looking to get back into it. If you guys want to watch some of that, I'll be streaming it live as soon as this goes out, and on top of that, there should be a video out here in the next couple days, so be ready for that. But with that said, let's go ahead and get on into the video. Alright, hello everyone, how are you guys doing? Hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Today we're here with another video, and got a lot of cash in my inventory, but we won't be doing a whole lot with it. What I'll be talking about more is stuff that I've seen recently on the Grand Exchange, as far as prices go, and just a lot of stuff that has just really intrigued me throughout the game, as far as where prices are going, how stuff's been going, and really what has been changing. So let's go ahead and get on into it. I will be calling this the Vorkath effect. I feel as if that's a great name to describe what is going on here. But with that said, let's get into it. Before we begin, I'd like to say if you guys have anything that you want to debate or discuss as far as this video goes, feel free to do so down below, but do it in a manner that is productive. So let's begin the Vorkath effect with a little bit of backstory. So if you guys are not aware, Vorkath is a new boss and a money-making method that is pretty much best in the game. It's somewhat comparable with raids being a little better if you know how to do it. Vorkath was introduced in early January. This is with the introduction of Dragon Slayer 2, and the drop table of this, along with the GP per hour, is mainly what this video is going to be based around. The drop table is mostly filled with alchables. The only rare drops that Vorkath actually has are a couple 1 in 5k chances at Vizzies, and on top of that a 1 in 1k chance at a Dragon Bone necklace, which is pretty much useless right now. The good side of having a majority alchable drop table is that it keeps a stable GP per hour rate, since most of these things are at all-time lows and pretty much near the alch price. This means you know what you're going to be getting into as soon as you start to do it, because the prices really can't go down anymore. In addition to this, it's also nice because with the flooding of all of this stuff into the game, you also have a lot of supplies for skillers to be able to use. Now, as far as the downside of having an all alchable drop table like this, is that the GP per XP for skillers is really low for any items that are dropped by this boss, because there's just so many coming into the game that there's almost a demand for people to make these into the items they need to be able to alch. Stuff like battle staffs and bolts, along the lines of what I'm talking about, are going to be things that there are just so many of them coming into the game that the game almost demands that people be out there making them more than they ever have in the past. So now, why is the low GP per XP bad? It's not necessarily if you're someone that's skilling. Of course you want a low GP per XP, but old school RuneScape is something that's supposed to be built around accomplishments in the game, and having a high GP per XP for something like crafting, where the skill itself naturally is just really high GP per XP. With the introduction of Vorkath, we saw this go drastically down to where some of the best methods in game were just 3 to 4 GP per XP. This makes stuff like crafting that used to be a really high achievement be just lessened, because now people can get it without as much effort. Ultimately, it's not bad for the people skilling, but it's bad for the people that have done crafting in the past, or people that are going to do crafting in the future when crafting isn't as low GP per XP. So for the time being, might not be bad, but for the accomplishment of something like 99 crafting, for example, it is a little bit of a hindrance. In addition to this, the bad is also that you do have a lot of money coming into the game. Since these items are mostly alchable prices, that means that they are going to be alched, and thus GP is just going to be rawly coming into the game that wasn't in here before. So a lot of GP will be flooding it as well. Now, the way you can combat this is by having drops on the drop table that are more just useful in game and people are willing to pay cash for, and really don't have a high alch value. People are willing to pay for this stuff because the high alch value makes it so you can get skilling XP and it really won't cost that much. The opposite way to go about doing this is make the drop table more heavily reliant on items that people are going to want to use, such as Pvm Gear and stuff like the sort. Now, the problem with this, and the reason I won't roast Jagex for this update, is because we really don't want new Pvm Gear in the game. So what else can they put on the drop table? Mostly have to be alchables if they want it to be prevalent. They could come up with a few little things that they could throw into the game that may be useful, but for the most part, not anything that's going to be staggering enough to make this the best money in the game without having alchables on the drop table. Now, this isn't really supposed to be a debate on where RuneScape is heading in the future, but on top of that, I don't think a ton of people were asking for a new best moneymaker in the game, so to be fair to the players as well, I don't really know if we necessarily needed this update. So ultimately, why I think Vorkath has been affecting the game so much more than stuff in the past is that Vorkath is more accessible to people than most, I guess, the last new money-making method. So raids was or is still the best money-making method in game, but you need really, really good armor for that. You need really good game knowledge. I mean, there is just so much going on in raids that you have to know a lot. And on top of that, you have to get with people to be able to do it. So there's that factor as well. There's just a lot more that you have to do to be able to do this. Vorkath is a soloable boss hidden behind a quest. The quest does only require 200 quest points. While that may sound like a lot, most people in the game have Barrow's Gloves, and Barrow's Gloves are only 175 quest points. So to assume that you can go up just a little bit more is pretty easy, and I'd say most people that are playing the game pretty actively have that. Ultimately, I think there are two main factors that are causing these prices to start to go up in game. The first being that because of the allocable drop table, you're going to have a decent amount of inflation in the game. It's just the way the world works. Basically, whenever this stuff is going to come in, someone has to take it out of the game, and people that are willing to alloc for profit / minimal loss are going to be those people. Along with that, I think the reason that a lot of prices are going up is because since Vorkath is so accessible, unlike raids is, you have a lot more people just quitting stuff they used to do before to go to Vorkath. Those items won't be coming into the game anymore that they were previously, thus their price is going to start to go up because more than likely the demand is still there for some of those items. So to kind of understand both of these points more in depth, basically just think of inflation as the total number of GP in game. If the GP that is in game continues to go up, and with Runescape this naturally happens, but with something like Vorkath this is just exacerbated, you would expect prices of items to go up by close to the same percent of the percent of inflation that's going up. Now this isn't perfect because in this game you have drops and whatnot, so stuff can continually come into the game, and thus it may not work as a 1-to-1 ratio, but that's the way you can think of it. So obviously if stuff like this is going to be allocables coming into the game non-stop, you would expect for there to be a decent increase in prices of just high tier PVM armor along with other stuff. As I was saying before, with people leaving other money making methods, it just makes sense. Vorkath is probably going to be 500k to a mil better than anything you were probably doing previously if you weren't doing raids. This obviously means you're going to weigh your reward doing one thing compared to another. Now this could be for any host of things in game. I mean anything from skilling to really anything in game. Getting another 500k to a mil more per hour with your money making method should entirely change the way that you play the game. Someone that was killing monkeys for Monkey Madness 2 that was getting Zenite jewelry probably isn't doing that anymore since the Zenite jewelry isn't worth a ton and stuff like heavy ballistics aren't worth anything anyways either. In addition to that, people that are doing God Wars may be less inclined to do it, as God Wars already wasn't that great, but now comparing it to something like Vorkath looks a lot worse. So now we'll take a look at some items that I think could exemplify what is going on here. So the first item that we'll look at will be Bando's chest plates. Now this is stuff like this is like, it's not directly affected by Dragon Slayer 2. I mean, you do have stuff like Adamant and Rune Dragons, but that's not going to make Bandos go up a ton. I mean, not a lot of people are doing them, so there really is no correlation there. Bando's chestplate has gone from 13.8 mil to 17.6. This is drastic for Bandos since it hasn't done anything like this in a while, so to go up 4 mil in the span of as little as 3 months is pretty crazy for Bandos. In addition to that, Armadillo chestplate has gone from 33 to 39 mil. Now, Armadillo chestplates did spike before Dragon Slayer 2, but that was more than likely due to the Dragon Slayer 2 hype, as you can see. With this item and some of the other ones in this video, you'll see a big drop on day of release. That's because they're not useful, so they go back to what their normal price would have been before. Next up, we have the Ancestral set. Now, this one was largely affected, however, came back down recently. Overall, it's gone from 190 mil to 210 mil. The bigger spike there was because of Raids 2 hype and a lot of people freaking out about that. Now, Jagex has told us that Raids 2 won't be coming out till sometime in the summer, and judging by the winter 2017 thing with mobile, we should probably expect it close to February. But more than likely, this means it'll be out in 3 to 4 months. Not a lot of people are going to be investing 4 months ahead of time when they could do it, as little as a month and a half in advance. So I don't think Raids 2 is really going to affect much of the items we have here today. In addition to that, we have the T-bow. Now, the T-bow is something that is obviously, upper echelon type of gear in game. It is just the pinnacle of PVM. Now, this has gone from 1 bill 63 mil all the way up to 1 bill 180 mil. So that's a 120 mil price increase, close to, 10, 12%, somewhere in there. And then finally, we have the Bludgeon. Now, this one I thought was a really, really good example because if you look at the graph, it has been going down forever because, some of them are just coming into the game from Sire, and not a lot of people are using Bludgeons. There's so many in game, and people have trained all the strength they needed to train for the most part. These things have just continually declined over time, but as you can see, as soon as Vorkath was released, these things actually started to go up, and they've gone up 3.5 mil since. Alright, so now that we've looked at all of this, and this pretty much seems to confirm what I've been thinking, there's no way to really know how much of this is necessarily inflated inflation and how much is people leaving other money-making methods. So ultimately, what we want to be able to take away from this is we want to be able to capitalize this going forward. Really, some of the telltale signs of this is obviously just going to be the idea that a new best money-making method is going to come into the game. Now, Vorkath just came out, and Raids 2 is going to come out in the summer. More than likely, Raids 2 will be better than Vorkath. You do have to remember that Raids 2 probably won't affect this stuff as much. Raids 1, a really good example showing that it doesn't really do a ton. Something I will say, though, is that we just got Vorkath as the new best money-making method in-game, and we've already seen these price changes. I don't see another thing like Vorkath coming out for at least another 9 months. I would hope that they would at least wait a year before they release, you know, the best new consistent money-making method that isn't Raids 2. So honestly, while prices have been going up a lot lately, I really don't know if this is going to stop. I mean, this is just kind of the way that the game's moving, and if Vorkath's going to continue to be in the game at the rates that it is, which, you know, why wouldn't it be, then it looks like it's going to continue this way. Now, there's always potential for something like a Zulrah type nerf to come in here, which will then impact everything else throughout the game, but for now, it seems as if this is going to be the way going forward. So now knowing all of this, what should you do going forward? Well, I would say you probably want to have as little cash in your bank as you can. Now, you don't necessarily have to get rid of all of it, but I'd say if you have cash sitting around that you don't plan on using, you may as well invest it into armors and stuff like that, either to sit on or use, depending on how you want to go about playing the game. You can do this in two different ways. The first one being more of a cumulative portfolio. This will kind of eliminate some of the risk as you'll have more diversified items, thus allowing you to consistently make more money without a ton of risk. What I mean by this is pretty much buy yourself everything that you're going to want to need as far as Pvm gear goes. Buy yourself a range setup, a mage setup, and a melee setup to the point to where you don't have any cash, and then you can use that stuff throughout the game, and more than likely it also will go up in price. Now, the reason I say to have all three is because you never know in the future what's going to get buffed / nerfed as far as armor goes. With Raids 2 coming up, some armors could be better than others, and by having all three types of armors, you pretty much eliminate the risk that some could go up and some could go down. In addition to that, the second alternative is just putting all of your cash into one or two investments that you really like. Now, the thing that I'd recommend here is to make sure they're closely correlated with something like Dragon Slayer 2. I pointed this out from the beginning, and I really am just happy that I did. Zulrah scales used to be 110 GP whenever, I guess, last summer, really, and JX nerfed Zulrah, and people were freaking out, and I said scales were going to be the best investment going forward. Obviously, JX was nerfing Zulrah in an attempt to put another money-making method in-game, such as Vorkath, as we've seen. And the reason that something like Zulrah is directly correlated to Vorkath, because if you think about it, because the players that are killing Zulrah are going to be players that have decent stats, they have decent requirements as far as quests go, and for the most part, they're the type of people that if they're not doing raids at the time and they're doing Zulrah, they're going to switch from something like Zulrah to Vorkath because it's pretty much the same money-making method. Now, there was no way to know it at the time, but it's pretty apparent that whenever a new money-making method is going to be coming out, that almost all of the higher-level community is going to go there instead of doing the previous one. And as long as the previous boss has useful things within the game, the demand for those items should stay the same, and the price as well for the items should continue to go up since less people are doing this. This made sense with scales since you needed them for, you know, blowpipes and just some of the best stuff in game, that obviously this was going to go up to just incentivize people to do Zulrah in general. Alright, so that is going to be it for me in regards to the Vorkath effect. It's just something I've noticed in-game recently, and the prices of armors have continued to climb, and I thought to myself, is this going to continue? Can I wait for armors to come back down? And honestly, at the moment, it doesn't make a ton of sense as to why it would, you know? But ultimately, this stuff will cap out. Armors like this can't continue to go up forever, even if inflation's going up a little bit because of Vorkath. People switching from Vorkath to other types of money-making methods can only happen for so long. Once stuff like Armadillo climbs, 10-15 mil plus, the GP per hour of other methods are going to go up as well, and so once those get really close, then the only difference is going to be inflation, and investing off inflation is pretty easy. I mean, you can do it in pretty much any aspect of the game. It doesn't necessarily even have to be PVM armors. So in the beginning months like this and months to come in the future, it makes a lot of sense as to why armors would rise so drastically, but after, say, the 6-7 month mark, then it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense as far as investing into PVM armor specifically for the Vorkath effect. Now, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video and found it useful. If you guys did, make sure to leave a like. On top of that, if you guys enjoy the content, make sure to subscribe to the channel. And in addition to that, if you have any comments or questions as far as the content that you saw here today, feel free to leave them down below and I'll make sure to get back to you. But with that said, hopefully you guys do have a wonderful day, and peace. Gotta get in those Arty Nights before the